Today, we are exposing 5 Australian chocolate products that act more like sugar-coated vegetable fat than real chocolate, and 2 bars that actually respect your body, your farmers, and your taste buds. Stay with me to the end, because once you see how these fake chocolates are quietly poisoning your health goals with palm oil, emulsifiers, and industrial sugar, I will show you the simple, supermarket-friendly bars that still behave like real chocolate. We have been told a comforting story about chocolate in Australia. A little treat is fine. Dark chocolate is heart-healthy. White chocolate is just for fun. No harm done. But here is the part nobody talks about. Most of the cheap chocolate blocks, cooking chocolate and novelty bars on Australian shelves are not what a chocolatier would ever call real chocolate. Real chocolate is built on cocoa mass, cocoa butter and sugar, with milk and maybe vanilla and a little lecithin in milk chocolate. Cheap compound chocolate rips out the expensive cocoa butter and replaces it with hard vegetable fats like palm or palm kernel oil, then uses cocoa powder and flavors to fake the taste. Compound products melt differently, taste flatter, and often list vegetable fat or hydrogenated palm oil right after sugar. Australian health sources warn that ultra-processed foods that are high in added sugar, saturated fat and additives are strongly linked with higher risks of obesity, heart disease and other chronic conditions when they dominate your diet. So when I say poisoning you in this video, I am talking about a toxic combination for your long-term health. Industrial palm fats instead of cocoa butter, very high sugar, and emulsifiers and flavors to hold the illusion together. Let us start with the block that many Australians buy for baking, thinking it is just cheaper chocolate. Number 1, Woolworths Essentials, Milk, Choc, Cooking Block, Sugar and fully hydrogenated palm oil. In Woolworths, the Essentials Milk Choc Cooking Block, 200 grams looks like the smart budget move. Plain packaging, Milk Choc Cooking Block, perfect for brownies, slices and children's parties. Now read the ingredient list. Sugar, vegetable fat, fully hydrogenated palm oil, milk solids, cocoa powder, emulsifier soy lecithin, natural flavor vanilla, no cocoa butter at all, no cocoa mass. By definition, this is compound chocolate. Cocoa butter is replaced with fully hydrogenated palm oil. Cocoa mass is replaced with cocoa powder. It is designed to be cheap, very shelf-stable and easy to work with, not to behave like real chocolate. The nutrition panel shows about 60 grams of sugar per 100 grams and roughly 25 grams of saturated fat per 100 grams, mostly from that hard palm fat. So what does that actually do in your mouth? It does not snap like real chocolate. It tends to bend or crumble. It melts more slowly and can leave a waxy, greasy film on your tongue instead of that quick, clean melt you get from cocoa butter. In baking, it can leave streaks of fat and a dull surface rather than a glossy set. Independent reviews of Woolworths Essentials cooking blocks show ingredients like sugar, vegetable fat from palm and shea, and reduced cocoa powder instead of cocoa butter, which is a textbook compound chocolate formula. On the front, this looks like milk choc, perfect for cooking. Underneath, it really means sugar and fully hydrogenated palm oil, dyed brown with cocoa powder, a chocolate-flavored fat block. If that is your go-to for children's birthday cakes and rocky road, wait until you see what Coles is quietly doing with choc buttons. Number 2, Coles Milk Compound, chocolate buttons. Choc chips that will not even admit they are chocolate. Head to the Coles baking aisle and you will see big bags labeled things like Simply Milk Choc Buttons or Milk Compound Chocolate Buttons. They are cheap, convenient, and sold as perfect for cookies and muffins. Notice that word, compound. Food technologists explain that compound chocolate swaps cocoa butter for vegetable oils like palm. Palm kernel or coconut uses cocoa powder instead of full chocolate liquor, does not need tempering, and melts slower with a waxier feel. A Coles listing for these buttons shows the ingredients very clearly. Sugar, hydrogenated palm kernel oil, Milk solids about 23%, cocoa powder about 6%, emulsifier, soy lecithin, natural vanilla flavor. Why compound? Because when the primary fat is vegetable oil rather than cocoa butter, it is no longer classic chocolate, so labels lean on words like milk compound, choc chips and choc buds rather than straight milk chocolate. So why is this a problem? Because in the trolley, many Australians read milk choc buttons, see a photo of melted chocolate and assume it is the same as real chocolate, just cheaper. In reality, you are baking with sugar and palm-style fats, a dusting of cocoa powder, emulsifiers and flavor. Those chips that never fully melt in your cookies. That is not a sign of high quality. That is high-melting vegetable fat, refusing to behave like real cocoa butter. On the bag, it says perfect for choc chip cookies. On the ingredient logic, it really means designed to be cheap, stable, and to fake a chocolate experience without paying for actual cocoa butter. And if you think that is just for baking and does not affect your everyday treats, number 3 is where the fake chocolate game hits something you have almost certainly eaten. Number 3. Nestle Milky Bar. White-style chocolate that is mostly sugar and added fats. Nestle Milky Bar is marketed in Australia as a creamy, milky favorite for children. No cocoa solids. Cute branding. Nostalgia. Look at the ingredients for Milky Bar-style products sold here. Whole and skimmed milk powder at around 30 to 40%. Sugar, cocoa butter, vegetable fats such as palm, shea, mango kernel or sal. Emulsifier such as sunflower lecithin, natural flavor. On some Milky Bar variants like milk and cookies, you see sugar, full cream milk powder, vegetable fat, cookie pieces, emulsifiers and flavor, with no cocoa solids at all and vegetable fat doing much of the structural work. The pack even notes that the white chocolate contains vegetable fat in addition to cocoa butter. So what actually is Milky Bar? Nutritionally and structurally, it behaves more like a milk and sugar candy bar with added fats than a traditional white chocolate built simply on cocoa butter, milk and sugar. Health-wise, that means a huge sugar hit, significant saturated fat from both milk fat and added vegetable fats, and multiple emulsifiers stabilizing the blend. Australian health guidance on ultra-processed foods notes that products high in added sugar, refined fats, and several additives are exactly the type people should sharply limit, because diets high in ultra-processed foods are linked with obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and other chronic illness. The wrapper suggests a milky, creamy white chocolate treat for children. The ingredient list quietly says sugar and vegetable fat confection with some milk powder and cocoa butter, closer to a lolly than to real, simple chocolate. And if you thought Milky Bar was bad, Nestle literally took that style of formula and pumped it full of air bubbles for the next one. Number 4. Nestle Aero, inspired by Milky Bar. Airy sugar and vegetable fat. Woolworths sells Nestle Aero. Inspired by Milky Bar chocolate block, 118 grams, a hybrid of airy Aero and creamy Milky Bar. It looks fun and light, not as heavy as a dense block. Here is the actual ingredient list. Sugar, vegetable fat with soy lecithin, full cream milk powder at 16%, whey powder from milk, cocoa butter, cocoa mass. Emulsifiers, soy lecithin and 476, flavor. The milk chocolate portion contains about 22% cocoa solids and 25% milk solids, and Nestle notes that the cocoa is Rainforest Alliance certified. On paper, that sounds better than some other bars, but look at the order. Sugar comes first, then vegetable fat, not cocoa butter. Milk powders follow. Only after that do you see cocoa butter and cocoa mass push down the list. From a mouthfeel point of view, the aeration makes it feel lighter, but you are mostly eating sugar and fat bubbles. The vegetable fat helps stabilize the bubbles and makes it cheaper to produce than a bar built primarily on cocoa butter. So why is this a problem? Because the branding suggests a lighter treat, less dense chocolate, maybe a bit better. In practice, you are still getting a very high kilojoule bar, over 2,200 kilojoules per 100 grams, along with plenty of fat, saturated fat, sugar and emulsifiers like 476 that many health-conscious Australians try to avoid. It is the same toxic formula, a multi-ingredient, ultra-processed confection built on sugar and mixed fats, wearing a chocolate costume. And if you are thinking, fine, I will skip the lolly-type bars and stick to healthy dark chocolate protein bars instead, number 5 shows how fake chocolate sneaks into that world too. Number 5, so-called healthy dark choc protein bars using palm oil compound. Walk down the health aisle at Coles and you will see things like Coles 5 protein bars dark choc. High protein, nuts. Looks like a smart swap for a normal chocolate bar. Now read the chocolate component. For these Coles 5 protein bars, the label shows a high protein dark chocolate compound making up part of the bar. That compound is made from vegetable fat, from palm, sugar, milk protein isolate, cocoa powder, emulsifier 322 and natural flavor. Then there are dark chocolate compound chips, again made from sugar, palm vegetable fat, cocoa powder, emulsifier 322 and flavor. So the dark chocolate that makes this bar feel sophisticated and healthy is literally palm oil-based compound chocolate, pumped full of sugar and cocoa powder, with dairy protein and emulsifiers holding it together. Then the bar adds glucose and golden syrup, maltodextrin, sunflower oil, multiple sources of processed soy protein, humectants and extra emulsifiers. From an ultra-processed perspective, this is a poster child. Refined sugars, refined oils, industrial protein, isolates and compound chocolate with palm oil, all wrapped in a health halo. The packaging suggests protein bar with dark chocolate, a healthy indulgence. The ingredient list actually says candy bar in disguise, with compound chocolate and palm oil wrapped around nuts and soy. If you have ever grabbed one of these bars at the service station thinking you were better than a classic chocolate bar, this is exactly the kind of fake chocolate health halo that worries a lot of nutritionists and public health experts. The pattern, it is not one bad block, it is a whole fake chocolate system. Look at the 5 products we have just covered. Woolworths cooking milk choc block, sugar and fully hydrogenated palm oil plus cocoa powder. Coles compound buttons, explicitly sold as chocolate buttons, but built on hydrogenated palm kernel oil and cocoa powder. Nestle Milky Bar, sugar, milk powders, cocoa butter, and added vegetable fats and emulsifiers, barely behaving like traditional cocoa butter chocolate. Nestle Aero, inspired by Milky Bar, sugar and vegetable fat first. Cocoa components pushed down the list. Coles' so-called healthy protein bars, dark chocolate compound built on palm oil, sugar and cocoa powder. Now overlay that with what a good chocolate should look like. Very few ingredients, cocoa mass, cocoa butter, sugar, milk, vanilla and maybe lecithin. Cocoa butter high on the ingredient list, not replaced by cheap vegetable fats. And overlay that again with what public health experts say about ultra-processed foods. High sugar, high fat, additive-heavy products are exactly the ones that drive weight gain, metabolic issues and chronic disease risk when they become everyday staples. See the gap. Our chocolate culture drifted from occasional squares of rich cocoa butter chocolate to daily hits of compound sugar and palm fat candy in baking, lunchboxes, protein bars, and late-night snacks. And that is before we even talk about the ethical side, where companies like Tony's Chocolonely are trying to prove you can track your cocoa and tackle modern slavery, while much of the mainstream still struggles to guarantee clean supply chains. So what does safe look like in this mess? Now let us talk about the chocolate options that are actually worth your time. You do not have to quit chocolate, you just have to change which bars you reward. Here are 2 concrete options and a simple rule to get you out of the fake chocolate trap. Safe chocolate number 1, Lindt Excellence 70% cocoa. Lindt's Excellence, 70% cocoa bar is on shelves in Coles, Woolworths and independents across Australia. Flip the pack and check the ingredients. Cocoa mass, sugar, cocoa butter, vanilla. That is it, no vegetable oil, no compound, no emulsifier, even in this formulation, just cocoa mass, cocoa butter, sugar and vanilla. This bar has at least 70% cocoa solids, and the fat in it is actual cocoa butter, not palm or shea. From a real food lens, that means a short ingredient list, real cocoa components and no cheap fat swap. It is still a treat, it is energy dense and contains sugar, but if you are going to eat chocolate, this is what not fake looks like. Safe chocolate number 2, Tony's Chocolonely. Ethics and real cocoa focus. Then there is Tony's Chocolonely, which has been expanding into Australian outlets. Tony's is a Dutch brand built around one mission, making slave-free chocolate by directly tackling child labour and exploitation in the West African cocoa supply chain. Reporting from outlets like CNN explains that Tony's works directly with cooperatives of cocoa farmers, tracks its cocoa from farm to bar using segregated processing at partner factories, and pays higher premiums to farmers with the explicit goal of reducing the economic drivers of child labour. They are not perfect, but they prove 2 crucial points. You can make great tasting chocolate without turning a blind eye to modern slavery, and you can still use classic chocolate structures, cocoa mass, cocoa butter, sugar and milk instead of compound palm fat chocolate. If you care about what chocolate does to your body and the world, brands like this are where you should be pointing your wallet. The simple Australian chocolate label test. Next time you are in Coles, Woolworths or Aldi, flip any chocolate bar and run this 5-second test. Is cocoa butter there and high on the list? If you see vegetable fat, especially palm oil, instead of or before cocoa butter, you are in compound territory. How many ingredients are there? 4 to 6 simple ones. Cocoa mass, cocoa butter, sugar, milk, vanilla, and maybe lecithin are closer to real chocolate. A long list of powders, fats, emulsifiers and flavors is ultra-processed confection. Is sugar the first ingredient? If yes, and cocoa does not show up until 3rd or 4th, you are mostly eating sugar. Does it say compound, choc, or cooking choc? That is your warning sign. This is not pure chocolate, it is a cocoa-flavored fat block. If a product fails 2 or more of those checks, it does not belong in a trolley that is trying to protect your health. Final message and call to action. Chocolate can be one of the most beautiful foods on earth. Fermented cocoa beans, pressed cocoa butter, sugar and maybe milk. Crafted into something that melts cleanly on your tongue. But the 5 products we have just walked through show how the Australian chocolate aisle drifted into something else. Milk choc blocks that are really sugar and fully hydrogenated palm oil with cocoa powder. Compound chips and buttons engineered to survive ovens because they are mostly vegetable fat. White and inspired by Milky Bar blocks built on sugar, milk powder and cheap fats, not a simple cocoa focus. Protein bars that use dark chocolate compound as a health halo while delivering palm oil, sugar and additives. At the same time, you have bars like Lindt Excellence 70% and ethical brands like Tony's Chocolonely, proving you can still make chocolate that uses real cocoa butter, has short ingredient lists, and does not rely on the dirtiest tricks of the global cocoa trade. We drifted from an occasional square of proper chocolate to constant hits of ultra-processed, fake chocolate, poisoning our health goals and normalizing palm fat candy as if it is the same thing. You do not have to become that person who never eats chocolate again. Just pick one of the 5 products from this video that you buy the most and replace it with a real cocoa bar for the next month. Then see how fast your taste buds and your body start to tell the difference between real chocolate and fake chocolate. If this video helped you see the truth hiding in Australian chocolate labels, tap like so more Australians can protect their plate from compound sugar and palm oil treats. If you want more breakdowns that protect your health and your family from the tricks buried in supermarket favorites, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. That is how we keep making videos the big food brands do not want. Now, tell me in the comments, which chocolate shocked you the most today? The Woolworths cooking block, the Milky Bar not really chocolate, or the so-called healthy bars full of palm oil compound? And what is the first swap you're making, baking with real chocolate, choosing a proper 70% bar, or finally ditching compound choc from your trolley for good?